This is a document called the expedition.
Ooh.
Log 201. Schedule check-in. We have arrived at the study site. Local specimens seem to be thriving, despite the high levels of intercommunal conflict. These curious creatures are docile, for the most part, but turn incredibly violent when startled or provoked. We have trained our field scientists in the best strategies to collect data without risking provocation. The first mission squad has been sent out a couple days ago. The reports have been encouraging so far, despite how hostile the natural environment is to our bodies. The weather is unrelenting, and the terrain unforgiving. It's frankly a miracle that there's so much of this species here. Wonders never cease in the world of science. Signing out. Log 205. Schedule check in. The first mission squad has returned. All was well until it came time to depart. We were careless, and were spotted by one of the local specimens, who somehow alerted all of the others to our presence. We cannot discount the possibility that they may, in fact, be some sort of hive mind. However, this means their means of defense and attack are rudimentary on a larger scale. They cannot touch our base. We will have to be more careful with future missions. It seems they do not take kindly to knowledge of our true appearance. Individually, our scientists will be vulnerable to the native species hostility. They will be waiting before being sent out again, to allow the specimens to resume their routines and forget us. In the meantime, we will take what we have learned and apply it in new ways to both improve our safety and our data collection techniques. Signing out. Log 280. Schedule check in. Enough generations of the local specimens have passed that it is now safe to resume our field studies. We feel much more confident this time around, and we have made plans to take one of the bodies of the specimens to observe. Hopefully, we can keep them alive, but every scientist knows how that goes, especially with new species. It doesn't seem to matter either way, however, given how many of them there are. We simply need to avoid drawing the attention of the rest of this presumed hive mind. Despite extensive distance observation from base, the readings have been inconclusive on the matter of how interconnected they really are. It's truly fascinating, and a large part of the reason why we've endeavored to obtain one of them for observation. These specimens seem to thrive very well in their current atmospheric conditions, as well as mainly protein based diet. Curious, as one of our scientists claimed they have mostly flat teeth akin to herbivores. They must be omnivores. I digress. We have created an observation chamber for the specimen with the atmosphere replicated and a diet prepared for their arrival, as they are often seen eating after traveling. Hopefully, our team can capture one alive. Signing out. Log 285. Schedule check in. The field team has returned. They managed to capture a specimen, but regrettably, it perished during a quick trek back to base. Clearly, they need the same living conditions as their natural area while they travel outside of it. We suspect atmospheric pressure in tandem with composition may also play a role, as its extremities swelled and bulged in ways uncommon while in their natural habitat. We will have to come up with some sort of way to protect these specimens while we remove them for study, as despite how inconsequential it is for one to perish when there are so many, we'd rather avoid it when possible, like any good scientist would do. Some scientists care not for the well being of their specimens at all, and will go to any length to extrapolate any information they desire. Not us. We will be better. And it's why our expedition was funded, after all, to prove without a doubt to the whole community that scientific discovery can be moral and relatively painless for all involved. While we are while we are working on a solution to our current obstacle, we will be studying the poor corpse of the specimen. The species seems to mourn and care for their dead a great deal, much like some of the animals back home. So we will be returning the specimen to the location we first found them as soon as we're done. Signing out. Log 293. Schedule check in. We have returned the body, and though we were not spotted, it seems to have caused a great deal of distress to the specimen's community. Yet again, news has traveled fast between members of the species, leading some of our scientists to become absolutely convinced they are a hive mind. But one must wonder, why such a delayed reaction if so? Surely they must have felt the life of the poor thing snuff out when it first happened. Perhaps they did, but chose not to worry. Perhaps the appearance of the body is what frightened them, not what happened to it. We should consider whether, if this situation should happen again, as I'm sure it will, what the best course of action would be. Clearly, following the customs of the species has off put them. We may have simply done it wrong. If that is the case, it might be better to hold on to any future corpses so as to not alarm the species with an increase in the appearances of their members' bodies. On another note, we have almost finished constructing a better means of transportation for the next captured specimen. With any luck, we will be able to study the next one alive and up close, then return them home where they belong. Signing out. Log 313. Scheduled check-in. We have obtained and have been keeping a live specimen. It seems their socio-emotional needs are much higher than we assumed, which is in line with our hive mind theory. However, it could also be that they just happen to be a very social species. It calls out and cries most of the time before falling quiet for about 6 to 12 hours of self induced sleep like stasis. There seems to be a pattern to its calls, which is truly gratifying. I fought the board for months to bring linguistic specialists with us, just in case the species we find has a fully developed language. This deepens the mystery. After all, what use does a hive mind have for a fully developed language? The species has begun to calm around our presence, and I believe this may be indicative that they no longer see us as enemies, but as potential allies. I would love for this to be the case. Imagine an allyship with such a unique and creative species in such a remote and lifeless location. We have high hopes going forward, and with any luck, we'll soon be able to return the specimen home once we have enough data. Signing out. Log 315. Schedule check in. Once again, we have severely misjudged the species of this specimen. Despite progress in establishing communication and offering regular sustenance and optimal environmental conditions, the specimens still saw us as their enemy all this time. They had tricked us into believing all was well, then enacted their plan. They assaulted one of the linguists during their communication session, damaging their hazard suit, and made a break to escape their enclosure. We tried to warn them that they would not survive outside of it to prevent them from hurting themselves, but they were quick and we could not stop them in time. Their body failed much in the same way as the last specimen we tried to collect. Such a shame, really. It's becoming increasingly clear how unique and clever each member of the species is, despite their uncanny ability to simultaneously communicate with others of the species, making each death a stinging and tragic loss of life. As their living conditions were satisfactory, we will need to investigate and study the psychology of the species more, so that this can be avoided in the future. As for what we did with the body, we did not return it to its species this time. Instead, we opted to imitate their burial rituals and lay the corpse to rest in the ground of their natural habitat. As for the linguists, they are perfectly fine. Their suit only sustained minor damage, and they were able to leave the enclosure in time to spare their life. In any case, we have a lot of work ahead of us now, more than we ever expected. Signing out. Log 402. Schedule check in. After intensive field study to make sense of their social rules and psychology, we have determined that our next sample from this species should be a biologically connected unit, or family. This species seems to be very attached to those they are related to, as, generally speaking, they spend the most time around these individuals. I hate to let emotions and deadlines affect the quality of our work, but we really need this next sample to be worthwhile. The board is breathing down our necks, and I don't know how much more time and funding they're willing to give. We are the bright future of our field. We cannot fail now. Signing off. Log 421. Schedule check in. So many things have gone wrong in such a short amount of time. I'm beginning to be of the opinion that this species is too dangerous to continue studying in close quarters, and all who plan to engage must cancel those plans. I repeat, no one should engage with this species. We have made many important findings by bringing in this family and have finally deciphered their language, but this knowledge has only served to cement my opinion. They're stronger together and quite smart. Somehow, they used the control panels in their enclosure to hijack the base and sent out an announcement for all to hear. Translated, it amounted to: "You cannot keep us here. We will escape and we will seek out revenge. Never come near our species again." True to their word, they managed to escape alive, and upon reconnecting with their species and relaying their experiences, the species as a whole has begun to target us with the technology that we have never seen from them before. We have left the system. I cannot stress this enough. Do not engage with this species. We have dubbed them Pericrosum concat, but they call themselves, what was it? Ah, yes, humans.